How you doing, class? Dr. Petty again, and this assignment we're going to be going through the second Excel project that is in Module 2. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this. So we are working in a workbook here, as I stated in the last class. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and we want to make sure when you open this document, if you have this option here that says Enable Editing, make sure you do that. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a read-only situation, which isn't going to be very good. Now, what we want to do here is, first thing is we want to change our file name. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to just change this 1 to a 2. And I'm going to click Save. Now, this is going to be saving in my Downloads folder. This is going to be the one I will submit for my grade, and that you will submit as well. Now, remember, you have two items that you normally download with this. You normally have the instruction set in the document you're monitoring or editing, and that's the one you're going to be submitting is this one here. So notice when this loads, you don't see a whole lot. But if you look down here at these tabs, you'll see that there are other things in these tabs that we're going to actually be editing. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump right into this. So we've done the first step, which is rename the document. Let's read the project steps. Brad Kaufman is the Senior Director of Projects for Rivera Engineering in Miami, Florida. The company performs engineering projects for public utilities and energy companies. Brad has started to create an Excel workbook to track estimated and actual hours and billing amounts for each project. He asks you to format the workbook to make the information clearer and easier to interpret. Go to the Employees for Projects worksheet and change the worksheet theme to Office. All right, so our worksheets are down here, and I'm going to select this worksheet right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Page Layout. And over in Page Layout, you'll see there are some themes. And there are various other themes that we can use for Excel, and colors and different things that we can have in here. It doesn't just have to be a grid-looking document that's boring to read. I'm going to select Office. That's going to apply that to this tab, or actually to this whole workbook. And then, in the same tab, in step number 2, it says, in cell A1, decrease the font size to 18 point and change the fill color to blue accent 1. All right, so here's our first A1. So cell A1 is right here. Now, even though it spans over these things, it probably just hasn't been merged and centered, which is why I'm able to maybe click, oh, it looks like they did merge and center it. And I can probably see that if I, yep, it is merged and centered. But we're going to decrease its font to 18. So we're going to just bump this down 1. This is very similar to Word on how this works. And basically anywhere you have this green box selected is whatever changes you make up here, that's where it's going to be affected. All right, so we change this to 18, and then the fill color to blue accent 1, lighter percent. Now our fill is right here. So we're looking for blue accent 1, lighter 80%. It may look a little different on your machine. That is quite all right. But just as long as you selected the correct one there, you should be good to go. So once we've got our heading right here adjusted and we have the color shaded, next thing we need to do in this next step is center the values in the range B3 through B9. So here's B3 through B9. I'm going to go ahead and center the values. Here I'm going to just select this, and I'm going to center the values. So there we go. So I centered the values. And then we're going to add outside borders to the range A1 through C9. So I'm going to select this range here. I'm going to come over here to this icon, and I'm going to select outside borders. Now you can't really see it until you click away from it, but as you can see, it is right there. And then I'm going to come down here because it wants us to change the color. I'm going to right click this, and we're going to go tab color blue accent 1, which is right there. And you can't really see it until you click away from it, but very good. There we go. We have our tab color there, so we can just go ahead and then move on. All right, so the next step is that was step number 6. Go to the project tracking worksheet. So let's do that. And we're going to change this to a short date. So to do this, I'm going to come over here and just select short date. Now, I had changed this earlier. I think it was like this before, but go ahead and change this back to short date. Very good. So short date is right there. And then the next thing we're going to do is resize column B to its best fit. So here I'm just going to hover my mouse in between these two things and just double click. I could have also come over here to format and did column width and auto column width. That would have worked just as well. Let's say if you're like on a Mac or don't have a mouse with you and you can't really do that. But there's other ways you can get that done. Okay, so moving on, it says display the values in the range D4 through D13 with one decimal place. So let's find D4 through D13, which is right here. Now, to do the decimal place, I'm going to focus my attention over here, and I'm going to increase decimal. And there it is, 1 decimal point. So it looks like someone got a half hour right there. So, I mean, that could mean something. In cell F4, insert a formula without using a function that multiplies Aubrey Irwin's estimated hours, the cell D4, and his pay rate, the cell E4, fill the range F5 through F13 with the formula in cell F4. So this is a really complex way to say that they want us to multiply these values together in cell F4. So if I were to come over here to F4, anytime that we are going to do an equation without a function, that is sum, average, if, and, or else, something like that, we're going to start with an equal sign. Any equation starts this way. And what we're going to do with the equal sign is we're going to say the cell D4, and we're going to multiply this by the cell E4. Now, notice as I do this, the cells highlight. And if I press the return key, you can see that I have a number here because I've created an equation. Now, it's important to know that cells that have equations in them are easily identified as such by the formula bar up here. This thing is really, really helpful. This helps you do a lot of different things, and sometimes these equations get really large and messy, and you're not going to be able to fill them out here. Okay, so we have this. Now we need to fill this equation. So Excel has this handy tool called a fill handle, I guess is what they call it. And whenever I have a cell selected, it's the green box at the bottom right corner of it. And if I just center my mouse on it and left click and drag it, I can copy those values or that formula over very easily. So the next thing we want to do is apply the currency number format to the range that we just updated. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this range, and here we're going to select this drop down, and we're going to select the currency for money, but then we need to come down here and then turn it into currency. There we go. So accounting looks a little bit different, but if you're doing currency, there you go. Put the dollar sign essentially on every single number. It's just read a different way. We have finished that step. We're on to step number 10. Display the values in the range K4 through K13 as percentages. So here you can see these are not percentages, these are numbers. And what we need to do is change the values so that they represent as percentages. No decimal places should be used. Okay, so here I'm just going to pop that little guy right there. And by default, it's not going to give you any decimal places. So there is our percentages right there. And then, then it says to use conditional formatting highlight cells rule to format cells containing a value greater than 10% with a light red fill with dark text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this area. We were already here, and you'll notice there's a conditional formatting option. This allows us to change the color of cells based on whatever's in them. So if it's a high percentage, a low percentage, you can make it green, red, whatever you want to do. You define the rules. But here there's some rules that are already built in for us. So we're going to look for the highlight cell rules. Now we're looking for something greater than, right? Greater than 10%. And here it starts us with 6%. We can actually just change this to 10%. So already it says light red fill with dark text. And when I click OK, you can see anything above 10% is flagged red. Okay, so step number 11 says in the range H4 through H13, use conditional formatting to create a data bars rule with the gradient fill blue data bar color option. So in this range, H4 through H13, let's say I want to use some visual data analytics, and I want to really represent my data in each cell with a little graph. So all I have to do is come over here to my conditional formatting again. And here there's a data bars, and there's a gradient fill. So we're going to use the first option on here, which is blue, and you can kind of see what this does. And now how that I can visually see my data kind of represented in bar charts and graphs and things like that. It makes it kind of easier to read. All right, so we got 3 more steps here. We got 3 equations we need to put down here. Let's just read through these. So in cell G14, this is step number 12. In cell G14, insert a formula using the average function that calculates the average amount of actual hours worked. Okay, so we're in G14. So as I said before, every cell that is an equation needs to start with an equal sign. Now, I'm going to start typing the word average. And as you can see, as I start to type that, the word average appears here. And I just need to double click this. And then what this is asking me to do is to define the range of where I want to assess my average. So my range here is G4. And I'm going to hold the Shift key and just select through G14. And then I'm going to, as you can see here, hold on, no, G4. And then hold the Shift key. Wish I wouldn't do that. And then I'm going to close this parenthesis. I'm sorry that's difficult to see. My thing is getting in the way there. But if you look up here in the formula bar, you can see I just did G4 colon G13. And then that gives you the average. So the average is here. The next, they want us to do the min. So again, it's equals min. There's the minimum. And then we're going to select that same range because we're looking at that same range. So G4, I'm going to type it in this time, G4 colon G14. As such. And you can notice as I do this, it types it out for me, and I hit enter. And finally, it wants us to do a max function, which is going to show us the highest number of the set of the data range. So I'm going to start with equals max, do a parenthesis, and then I'm going to say G4 colon G13. I think I may have messed up some of my equations here. Let's take a look. So it looks like when I come up here, you can see I accidentally added an extra cell. So I can come over here to the formula bar and actually update this here. But I don't need to go to each one of these and fix it. I can actually just use the fill handle. Nope, no I can't because it's a different function. Looks like I have to go to each one of these and fix it. All right, so I got that one is fine, this one is fine, and this one is also fine. Okay, there we go. So we have our values here. And that is it. So that's all you had to do. Just do those steps that we went over. Make sure you have the name updated with the proper name, and then go ahead and submit the assignment. And have a great day.